everyone, how's it going? I just thought I'd make a short video before I do my readings for tomorrow because I'm filming full moon tomorrow. So I just wanted to touch base with you guys. First of all, my fellow TIs, how are you guys doing? How is everything going with you? Please let me know in the comments. I want to share with you something that happened earlier on today, right? So I went to bed really early, like super early, because I got these wireless headphones and now everything in my home is wireless in spite of the massive amount of frequency that technology generates. I've got like almost everything wireless in my house now. Well, in my flat. So after, using wireless headphones or using wireless technology for what seemed like forever, I actually turned down to sleep at around 10 o'clock, something like that. It was pretty early for me. So I woke up early. I woke up before, I think it was before 7 o'clock. But as I was waking up, I felt electronic jolts in my head. That's something that directed energy weapons also do. They can give you electroshocks on the head. And the second I got the electroshocks on the head, I had immediate short-term memory loss. Now, this is something that a lot of targeted individuals experience. The thing that I'm having trouble ascertaining is exactly how this happens, because I know that directed energy weapons can be fired on the brain to fry the brain in a way. I know that can happen. I know that acoustic weaponry can be, fired at the head to cause headaches and stuff like that. And yes, it can be done. I know that there are EMF weapons that can cause injury when it comes to the brain, cause brain damage. I've experienced it. A lot of people have experienced it. I know all of that. The thing that I'm having trouble putting together is how they create electroshocks in the head. And it was at a precise point. It was at these 2 points in the brain. No, actually, it was more towards the back. And the second that I felt my brain being shocked, I lost, I forgot something that I was thinking about. It was like I was thinking about it, and then the electroshock happened, and then I forgot, like, the very next moment what I was thinking originally. So that is the type of dangerous brain reconfiguration that these shocks actually cause. It's very similar to electroshock therapy, only in my case it was a lot more gentle, because it was like a short, sharp shock and it only lasted about a second. But if that type of short electroshock can cause memory loss, imagine what sustained electroshock therapy can actually cause. Because electroshock therapy, it can not only cause you to have like short-term memory loss, it can also cause numbness in the rest of the body. And that's exactly what happened to me. Only it wasn't the kind of numbness that creates, a paralyzing feeling in your body. It wasn't that type of electric shock. It's like it went throughout your nervous system, and certain impulses within your nervous system started to dwindle. And that's why when you see people with electroshock therapy, it sometimes seems like they're lacking emotion, because their nerves have been dulled by the electronic impulses. Not electronic impulses, but the electric shocks. The electric shocks have gone through the nervous system and they've dulled the senses in the nervous system. So when that happens, it can affect your emotional level. It can affect the way that you perceive the world even. It can affect your memory, your coordination, everything. And again, this is not the first thing that happened to me, but it does happen occasionally when the gang stalkers are running out of options and they're running out of ways to try to re-traumatize me. Because remember, trauma is very important when it comes to detecting you and where you are. Even with all this technology around me, like creating a super radiation, if I'm not stressed enough, then I'm not putting out enough energy to be properly detected and properly pinpointed. If I am not sufficiently traumatized, then it impairs the ability of the weapons to find me or to find me accurately. Okay, even with all this technology around, if I'm not stressed, then my energetic blueprint isn't showing. And if my energetic blueprint isn't showing, then it diminishes the effectiveness of the weapons. That's why they need me stressed. Okay, that's why there's such a big deal with perps trying to stress me out. It's because if I'm not stressed enough, if my adrenaline isn't heightened enough, then my energy isn't dense. And if my energy isn't dense, then I'm not as easily identified and I'm not as easily wounded if my frequencies are up. You know, when other TIs used to say, get your frequencies up, I used to think, what kind of fucking shit are you talking? I used to think that, like, you're talking to somebody who used to believe in angels and shit. And whenever other TIs used to talk about, you know, higher frequencies and stuff, I used to think they were talking shit, but it's actually true. The reason why, as a targeted individual, you are supposed to be stressed out all the time. Again, our targeting is multifaceted. It's not just to isolate you. It's not just to destabilize you before you become a threat. It's not just those things. It's also so that the directed energy weaponry, the sonar weaponry, the psychological torture is so all of these things can become more effective. The point is to use your own stress against you, to break down your body and to make you more easily identifiable and more easily isolated. If you're easily isolated and you're easily stressed out, it allows the gang stalkers to do what they need to do uninterrupted. So that's why there's such an emphasis on trying to stress me out by socially isolating me. My guy, isolation is literally my strength. And it's literally a part of my destiny. Exile, isolation. It's literally a part of where I'm supposed to go in life and what I'm supposed to be doing. Everything that the gang stalkers are trying to do is actually helping me to fulfill what I came on this earth to do, which was to illuminate the truth about what this world is. So they're trying to hit me with things that ultimately have been the precise reason that they've been losing control of this case. They're trying to isolate me socially by having people acting weird around me, having people make stuff up that's not true, having people like just attempts at social isolation, using every trick in the book, racism, sexism, fat phobia, all the rest of it. Everything to try to socially isolate me and to try and get my stress levels up. But it's not working. And when it's not working, then they have to try to find other methods. And I think that electronically shocking my brain, trying to cause further brain damage so I don't catch on to their bullshit, that is one of the ways in which they try to maintain control. I'm about to say something quite controversial now that I shouldn't say. But I believe that this has been done to other members of my family too. Their brains have been deliberately dulled because when they were children, when they were young, they were prodigies. Like me, I was a prodigy. Well, not on the same level as my parents, but I was very, very smart. There were things that I used to be able to spell, things that I used to be able to do as a child that I can't do anymore. Well, that I struggle to do now in comparison to when I was a kid. And it was the same with my parents. My parents were prodigies when they were younger. Do you understand what I mean? And now that, you know, they're still intelligent, they're still very sharp, don't get it twisted. But because of the short-term memory loss and the effects on their hand-eye coordination, their effects on their reflexes, all of these things, it's built up over the years. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I believe it's because... Hi, Francis. Francis Williams has just dropped in. But I believe, yeah, members of my family have been subjected to the same things as me. And that's why, even though they're still brilliant and they're still intelligent and they're still talented, that some of their genius talents have kind of fallen by the wayside as time's gone on. It's not just because of them and their bodies. I believe it's because their bodies have been attacked over decades, like mine has been. If you notice in my earlier videos, when I first started living in Willesden Green, notice my speech patterns. Yes, I was anxious. I was a lot more anxious back then than I am now. But notice my speech patterns. Hell, notice my speech patterns from 3 fucking years ago. And notice how slow those speech patterns are now. Notice how slow the speech patterns are. Notice how much less I am emoting these days. All of that is as a result of sustained damage to the brain through these weapons. I'm even struggling to get some of my words right. There was a time where I wasn't struggling to get my words right so much. Now I'm kind of stumbling because of the fucking brain damage caused by the fucking weapons. And I've seen the catastrophic effects it can have on people. I shouldn't mention her. I really shouldn't mention my mother, but I believe this happened to my mother because everything that I'm going through with it, like, sometimes my eyes will close and go like this when I'm doing something, right? And then on top of that, sometimes I will get really massive pains in my head that are not organic. She used to get the same thing that I got. There was a time where I remember when I was a teenager, right? And she seemed to have a sickle cell crisis. And the pain for that woman was oh my God. The pain she was in was absolutely immense. Now, bear in mind, back then, my mum had chronic sickle cell anemia, but she was on like a complementary health thing. So she had sickle cell anemia. And her body was in a much worse state than mine, technically speaking, right? And she was in the most immense pain imaginable. I couldn't believe it. I went numb because of the amount of screaming she was doing. She was screaming in fucking agony. And bear in mind, she had sickle cell. So when the same thing happens to me in June 2021, I got questions. Because first of all, I don't have sickle cell anemia like my mum does. Sickle cell anemia is when there's not enough oxygen getting to your blood cells. I don't have that. I don't have it as bad as she does. So how is it that I'm suffering with the same pain that she's gone through when I don't have sickle cell anemia, and I have not had 4 kids? Please explain that to me. Every single injury that my mum has had, I've had. I'll go one further, right? My partner complains about pain in his hips. He complains about pain in his head. He gets the same pain when we were both younger, right? He used to get all these types of pains that I wasn't getting. Fast forward to a few years later with me and him being together. Now I've got all the pains in my hips and my fucking back and my fucking head that he had, that he was complaining about. The exact same pains that he was complaining about, I'm complaining about now. The only thing that I don't suffer from is nerve death. Not on the same level he does. So there ain't no way in hell that MI5 have not been using this technology on God knows how many people. They haven't just been using it on me. They've been using it on everyone I've ever known. Even people that don't like me. They've even been using it on the fucking perps. Let alone other TIs. Ain't no way, bro. Ain't no way. And you're trying to shock my head in the early hours of the morning. You're trying to shock my head for what? You're trying to shock my head for what? There are so many things that I could tell you. So many things. The Suzanne Summers thing. Baby, I will get into more detail about that and MI5. I will go into more detail about that because it relates to my own life as well. I should tell you now, but I got to wait for the right time. But yeah, they tried to shock me this morning. Well, they didn't try to shock me. They shocked me in the head this morning. I don't think it had the effect that they were going for, because even though I had slight memory loss, a slight nerve damage, slight loss of nervous feeling, you know, I had a slight loss in that, I was still up this morning cleaning and reading and doing all kinds of things. And if anything, I felt calmer this morning than I usually do because of that head shock. So I'm not going to thank MI5 for damaging my brain. I'm not going to thank them for doing that. But I have to admit, I did feel calmer. I did feel a bit better able to focus. You know, I'm looking at my environment now, and even though it's still kind of chaotic, I'm not seeing so many doom piles everywhere. Like, everything's neatly folded and washed, and, you know, everything's better, basically. It's not good, but it's better, you know. But yeah, I did go through that mild head shock thing, and they have been firing weapons at my chest and at my heart. Sometimes they fire it at my genitals as well, and on my womb and on my ovaries. Although the womb and ovary thing, it hasn't been as prevalent now because my attention isn't on my reproductive organs. So it's like, what also happens is that when it comes to the DEWs and the EMFs, what will also happen is that your torturers will try to find new places to fire the weapons on you to see if you fixate on it. Because the more you're hypersensitized, again, is the more stressed you are. And the more stressed you are is the more dense your energy is. And the more dense your energy is, the better the weapons are at finding you, and the more effective the weapons are in harming you. That's why targeted individuals talked before about elevating your frequencies, and I thought they were, again, I thought they were talking shit, but there's something in that. Do you understand what I'm saying? And the irony of this is that do you remember when I told you guys that they tried to diagnose you as paranoid schizophrenic so that they can wrongfully medicate you, or, you know, give you you see, I can't get my words right. Do you remember when I told you that they tried to diagnose targeted individuals with paranoid schizophrenia, right? Well, ironically, electroshock therapies and the medication, and especially the medications, because the medications are opiates, they do the same thing electroshock therapy does, which is dull the nervous system. So, ironically, the same place that the gang stalkers are trying to drive us to, it would actually make us less sensitive to the weaponry, not more, because it's dulling our nervous system so we can't feel it as much. But at the same time, it also means that our reflexes are compromised. Our cognitive abilities are compromised. Our memory is definitely compromised. So it's a double-edged sword, really. And truth be told, the more our nervous system is dulled, is the more they can actually afford to do to us on top of that. So there are layers to this shit. There's all kinds of layers to what is being done to targeted individuals right now. There's all kinds of layers. You know, it's absolutely disgusting, but it's like there are layers to this shit. Layers. Layer upon layers. You know what I mean? So I think the perps are plotting something, but then again, perps are always plotting something. It wouldn't be gang stalking if there wasn't plotting going on constantly. There's always something, Because like I said before, when you're a target, they will try anything and everything to get a rise out of you. But I think it was when MI5 got back to me and basically admitted that they were doing stuff they weren't supposed to be doing with me. And then on top of that, that letter from the Home Office being sent to a TI group, also basically admitting that they're doing something they're not supposed to be doing. Those two letters, I feel like, kind of changed everything for me. Because now I realize, well, I'm one of God knows how many people in this country that could uncover serious human rights abuses in peacetime. And now those human rights abuses are being used to start World War III, like I said. So now the same thing that's being done to us, the same thing that's being done to TIs, now that's being used to facilitate World War III. Just like I said it would be. Because it's coming. This whole Palestine versus Israel thing. World War III is coming. This is what it was building up to. Do you know what I mean? This is what it was building up to. It's not going to be as... Again, it's not going to be as simplified as I've made it before, but it is going to get really, really ugly. I can see that. Really ugly, really fast. I saw on Amber Khan's Instagram, The Quietest Revolution. That's another tarot reader. I saw on her Instagram that she had posted about... It wasn't actually her post, but I think it was the Department of... I can't remember what department it was in the US, but they were warning US tourists to be vigilant. I'm thinking, oh God, here comes the bullshit. So any US citizens in a foreign country are being warned to be on their guard now. I'm thinking, you know what? This is exactly where the bullshit is going to start. And it's not going to be long before the UK do the same thing. Only where the US is kind of approaching this from the foreign angle, as in US people abroad, over here, suspicion of Palestinian terrorists are being reinforced through how we treat immigrants over here. So in the US it's about tourism, and over here it's about immigration. Or that's what it seems to be like. That's what seems to be going on. Over here it's about immigration. And Suella Braverman is definitely going to use this as an opportunity to clamp down on rights for immigrants in this country. I can see it already. I can fucking see it already. It's as clear as day. And on top of that, there's going to be additional... this is what I see. I see additional troops potentially being used to defend Israel. That's what I see. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, right? But I see additional troops being sent over to Israel by by the US and the UK. So they're going to send additional troops over to Israel to help Israel out at some point, or they're going to use directed energy weapons in that country against Palestinians. I see Russia and China getting involved. Definitely Russia. No, not Russia. More China than Russia. But I see those two countries getting involved and helping out the Palestinians simply because they're not the West. But it is going to get very messy. It is going to get very messy. And what I see from there, with the troops being brought into either side, and especially with the US and the UK bringing in further troops to either side, welfare was already really, really bad. It's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. More people are going to turn to crime. Like it's been going on already. Everybody foresaw it. Austerity brought additional crime. The fucking prisons are filling up. The prisons are overflowing. There have been deaths and suicides and escapes from these prisons because they're overcrowded and understaffed. And because the prisons are overcrowded now, instead of immediately putting prisoners in rehabilitation, what I can see is some of them being enlisted as informal collaborators. Because already there have already been serious criminals being enlisted as handlers or regional, handlers regionally or nationally. They have already hired serious criminals and bribed them with items that are contraband by customs. So I can definitely see, through these prisons being overfilled, more recruitment of gang stalkers. And their role in gang stalking is going to be the same as any perp's role, just to fuck things up. That's their role. Do you know what I mean? With the prisons overflowing, there's definitely going to be more recruits for gang stalking. Gang stalking is going to become more mainstream. And then with MI5 talking about like unprecedented threats from China and now from Palestine, now they're going to try to enlist the public's help in rooting out any potential terrorists. That's another way in which gang stalking is going to go public. And then people on welfare, even though privatization is to blame for a bloated welfare system, welfare recipients or benefit recipients are going to be hit too. Not even the ones that are sick, but especially the ones that are extremely sick. They're going to be hit, starved to death, starved out. And then on top of that, the NHS is buckling under the pressure to the point where the most vulnerable patients are basically being left to die. And elderly patients are basically being left to die. It's already happening. Everything that I foresaw that has happened, all of it is happening. All of it is happening. And it's all thanks to gang stalking, because gang stalking is unlawful trafficking, unlawful human trafficking on behalf of defense systems, as well as the government, as well as several other businesses. Do you know what I mean? Because they need to experiment with something. They can't just have people blacklisted and not do anything with it. So yeah. Things are going to go from bad to worse real quick. I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. So, yeah, once again, gang stalkers, give yourselves a big hand. Give yourselves a big hand. You actively made the world worse, and you're actively going to continue to do it because of your ego. Congrats. Great job. Great job. But they don't care. They don't care. I'm only sorry that the rest of the community don't know who the perps are. Because then when things really go down the shitter, they can at least have someone to take it out on. But that might be kept from a lot of the community. It might be kept from them. Baby. Listen. Yeah, things are going to go from bad to fucking worse in a hurry. So, you guys take care. Peace and blessings. I love you guys so much. And once again, my fellow TIs, let me know how you guys are doing. I'm sure I've forgotten something, but I'm going to go to bed. Fuck it. I can't be asked tonight. So if I remember what I'm supposed to be saying, or what, you know, what my point was, or what have you, I will come back and I will talk to you guys later. Take care. Peace and blessings. Mwah. Bye-bye.